Okay, Hare Krishna. So let's begin. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Dandot Pranam, all close to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining today. Today we will be covering the Bhagavad Gita chapter 10 summary. And we were going through these last 9 chapters very detailed, and many feedback we received that it was nice and great that they could go through understanding what is Bhagavad Gita, what is Krishna. So this is all summarized, is the content. So thank you so much for joining today for this 10th chapter. So let's welcome all of you saying 3 times Haribo. Haribo. Haribo.
Haribo. Haribo.
Also welcome His Grace Hema Jagannath Prabhu. Prabhuji is taking class today. So let's welcome Prabhuji saying Haribo 3 times. Haribo.
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 Please start.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naran Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayasu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse number 8, 9, 10, 11. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samannita. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matva sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samannita. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Swami Prabhupada ki jai. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Verse number 19. Verse number 9. Machita madgata prana bodhayantas paraswaram kathayantas chamam nityam tusyanti cha ramanti cha. Machita madgata prana bodhayanta paraswaram kathayantas chamam nityam tusyanti cha ramanti cha. Translation by His Divine Grace. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they Let me read the verse number 9 again. Machita madgata prana bodhayantas parasparam kathayantas chamam nityam tusyanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Verse number 10. Te samsatata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. And verse number 11. Tesam evanukampartham aham ajnanayam tama nasayami atma bhavastho jnanadipena bhasata. Tesam evanukampartham aham ajnanayam tama nasayami atma bhavasto jnanadipena bhasvata. Translation by His Divine Grace. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmulitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamrupakadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Tapadakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpati Gopi गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभये वचपतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमो। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नीलाचल निवास नित्य प्रभातमने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय नमः. So thank you so much for joining this wonderful sangha where we're discussing chapter by chapter summary, and it's one at a time. And thank you for your attention. If for some reason I have challenges with my network or you don't hear me, please let me know. I got disconnected, but I really spoke about the words. Is there any problem anybody is having? Can they hear me well?
Right now is good, Prabhuji. Haribo, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. So as you can see, Bhagavad Gita is spread into 18 chapters and 700 verses. In order to get a full understanding of Bhagavad Gita, you need to go sloka after sloka, verse after verse for 700 days, taking one sloka at a time to really understand Bhagavad Gita. But say, for example, you don't have 700 days and you have 18 days at your disposal. What you do is you basically take chapter 1, chapter 2, summary, chapter 3, 18 days. You get to understand Bhagavad Gita chapter by chapter by chapter. But still, if you don't have 18 days and you just have one day, that one day, if you really want to understand the essence of Bhagavad Gita, the essence of Bhagavad Gita is in these 4 slokas we read today. These 4 slokas in chapter 10, which is assigned today, are called Chatur Shlokis. So say, for example, you didn't had 700 days, you didn't had 18 days, you just had one day, and you had to go through 4 verses, and you want to understand the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Those are the 4 verses which we read today. Verse number 10.8, 10.9, 10.10 and 10.11 are called Chaturslokis. That means the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita is right in these 4 verses. So you're very fortunate that we are all discussing about this very powerful chapter and the most powerful verses which describes the entire end-to-end of Bhagavad Gita to the Chaturslokis is something we read today. Very, very powerful verses. These 4 verses, if you understand, you have understood the entire Bhagavad Gita. So let's go deep into these 4 verses, because if you go deep into these 4 verses of chapter 10, which we're discussing today, here Krishna is talking about the opulence of the absolute. In the prior verse, in the prior chapter, Krishna spoke about focusing your mind on Krishna. Like Krishna told that you focus your mind on Krishna. Like say, for example, if somebody wants to study something and you want him or her to focus his mind on engineering or medicine or legal discipline. But when you tell him to focus your mind, you have to also tell him or her that there has to be incentive behind which the mind has to be focused. Until and unless you show them the return on investment, until and unless you show them the importance of taking a line or having some benefit beyond which you could understand the subject matter, there'll be no incentive. And Krishna, in this verse and in this chapter, is actually telling the same thing. You focus your mind onto me, but what are you going to focus on? Which gives you that incentivization by which you can understand me. And that understanding that of the incentive is in the opulence. So Krishna in the 9th chapter nicely said, focus your mind. But Arjuna was still not getting the aspect of focusing his mind. So now Krishna has to come and tell him that these are the incentives, these are the opulences based on which you can focus your mind. So these are the subjects based on which the object of bhakti can be relied on. So that's the reason why when you ask somebody to study something, tell him the benefit of studying something. Then the enthusiasm is going to stick. And exactly like that, Krishna is telling Arjuna that these are my opulences. If you have to focus your mind, you can focus your mind on these opulences. Otherwise, it's incomplete. So Krishna is a very, very beautiful explainer, uh, gives a sequence by sequence understanding to Arjuna from which we all can learn from. Just focusing your mind is not enough. You have to tell on what you should focus your mind about. So with that premise, with that segue from chapter 9 to 10, let's try to go deep into this verse, which is one of my favorites. Aham sarvasya prabhu. Everything comes from Krishna. Everything comes from Krishna. This beautiful nature, this beautiful trees, plants, the material objects, everything comes from Krishna. The leaf doesn't shake without the approval of the wind god, who is under the jurisdiction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Lord of the universe. He is, from him, everything emanates. Aham sarvasya prabhu. Everything emanates from. And the wise who understand that, they engage in devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So here, Krishna is providing an opportunity to foster the relationship between a devotee and the Supreme, because everything comes from him. If everything comes from somebody, you would like to have some form of relationship. In our bhakti, we call that sambandha. Sambandha is a tenet of bhakti by which we understand who we are, who we have come from, and what is the relationship. That is sambandha. And 10.8, which you are seeing right now on the screen, explains sambandha. And then Krishna goes on to say, Machita Madgata Pranabodhayantas Parasparam Kathayantas Chamam Nityam Tusyanti Charamanticha. This is once again another favorite of many devotees, because the thoughts of a pure devotee dwell in the Supreme. Like, say, for example, you go to a temple, there is trash in the corner, the community hall is not the cleanest, and the bathrooms are not the best, but the focus of a devotee is in the beautiful face of Sri Radha Sam Sundar. Big opulent eyes of Lord Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Mai, and the dancing postures of Gauranitai, because there is a higher cause, there is a higher taste. So in spite of all these things, you come to temple to really have a darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is so beautiful. And the devotees who dwell in the devotional service, they derive great satisfaction. For them, the trash, the nails on the parking lot, or the one-way street, sometimes when we come out on the days of Monday to Saturday when the exit is not open, doesn't matter. The more important thing is for a higher cause, and that higher cause gives us great satisfaction and bliss. And it's always enlightening for devotees to talk about the Supreme. Tushyanticha Ramanticha. So whenever you try to talk about other mundane things, it wears you down. It gives you a tiredness. Even if your tongue would try to dwell on this prajalpa, but you realize that when you do more prajalpa, your brain goes for a fried up situation. But when we talk about Srimad Bhagavatam, when you talk about Bhagavad Gita, we go on talking and we go on hearing, and the devotees, they do Tushyanticha Ramanticha. They always get a lot of bliss. And this is nothing but Abhideya. Abhideya, this 10.9 emphasizes Abhideya. Abhideya means you're trying to set up the goal, and that goal of achieving something. So this is a goal setting verse where, in order to prosper in bhakti, in order to do the dwelling on the Supreme Personality of God by doing devotional service or singing, dancing, cooking, whatever it may be, there is a lot of satisfaction. So there is a expectation of goal setting. And then in 10th verse of the 10th chapter, which is the third Chaturshloki. Krishna is saying, Tesam satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. That means if you are devoted and you're serving with love, everything in Krishna consciousness is about love. Without love, nothing happens. So with love, if you serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then what does Krishna do? Krishna gives intelligence for us to come to him. And this is the third tenet of bhakti, which is prayojana, which is the process of getting the goal. So you have the sambandha abhideya prayojana, which is the basic of, if you've understood sambandha abhideya prayojana, you've understood bhakti yoga. And the one-to-one mapping of sambandha is 10.8, which we went through. And abhideya, goal setting, is 10.9. 10.8 being sambandha, which is relationship setting. Then once you know that the relationship with the Supreme, because everything comes from him, aham sarvasya prabhu, then you try to serve him, dwell on him, talk about him, gain happiness from him. That is abhideya. And prayojana is the 10th verse. Tesam satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam panta. So if you take a step towards Krishna, Krishna will take 10 steps to give you that buddhi based on which you can come to him. So the entire bhakti yoga, sambandha abhideya prayojana, is right here in the three Chaturslokis. And the fourth Chaturshloki is Tesam evanukampartham aham agyanayam tama. That means if you dwell on me, Krishna is saying, he'll destroy the darkness born out of ignorance. Most of the time, Krishna consciousness is a very simple process. You just chant, follow some regulative principles, and you try doing some devotional service. You will gradually understand Krishna. You'll gain humility. You gain your ability. You'll get vyavasayitmika bhuti. You'll do well in your job as well, and you'll do well everywhere, and you'll get a calming effect. And all the darkness born out of ignorance will be taken, as Krishna is mentioning. Then, if you do all these three things, in order for Krishna to reciprocate, this is the reciprocation verse, and to show them special mercy, dwelling in their hearts, he destroys the shining lamp of knowledge. With the shining lamp of knowledge, the darkness born of ignorance. So all the ignorance, the thoughts which takes us elsewhere, the thoughts which by which some of the simplest things we can't even understand, Krishna takes out the ignorance out of us. So these four verses are the essence of Bhagavad Gita. You don't have to go anywhere else. If you have dovetailed your attention and understanding into those four verses, the Chaturshloki we just discussed, you have understood the entire Bhagavad Gita. These are the four favorite verses of so many personalities in our movement. And coincidentally, I have the great opportunity to share the essence of Bhagavad Gita in these four verses. And then in the 10th chapter, for completeness, Krishna goes on to say so many things about his opulences, as in he is the Vishnu among the Adityas, he is the sun among the luminaries, he is the moon among stars, he is the mind among the senses, he is the Sankara among Rudras, and there are so many details, but those are very important, of course, when we really go deep into it. But for the sake of the details, the opulence, where Krishna is going after this 11th verse and going into each of these details, I'm so and so of this, I'm so and so of this. Krishna is essentially showcasing that he is so opulent that even if we focus our opulent in one or two things, we'll get. So whenever we have great personalities, say for example, great devotees or great technocrats or great managers, and we read about the life about them and you get inspired. And Krishna is similarly saying, I have so many things. I have so many talents. I have so many opulences. And if you have to fix your mind, you can fix your mind in one such opulences, and you'll go back to Godhead. So it's a very philosophically tuned uh, topic so far. But Krishna, in the prior verse, talks about Manamanna Bhagavamat Bhakto Madhyajivam Namaskuru Mahamayiva Sisiyam Yuktavim Atmana Matapariyam Nam. So that means he is asking us to focus on me. But then Krishna goes on to say, what are the things you can focus on, which are essentially the opulences. And then Krishna also talks about how every day we end up drinking water, but we don't understand the value of water. But in the water which gives us the life, he is the taste of water, and he is the light of the sun and the moon. So there is a lot of precursor as to how Krishna is dovetailing into the opulence by giving such beautiful explanation about some of the opulences. So the 8th verse, Sambandha, highlights about what devotees do. For them, they don't think that somebody else is the source of everything. They don't think that this Deva, this Devi is the source of everything. For them, they understand with undivided attention that Krishna is the source of everything. So that when you know the source, when you know who your father is, you have a sambandha, you have a relationship. Likewise, when we know that Krishna is saying that he is the Bija Pradapita, he is the seed-giving father of all of us, and then he says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, then we all should understand that he is the source of everything. So we have a relationship touch point. And then in the 9th, Krishna talks about the symptom of devotees. You know, whenever you end up doing devotional service, what do devotees get? What do devotees feel? What do devotees like? What do devotees converse about? And when you have these beautiful festivals, when the Lord in his ecstatic form as Lord Jagannath goes out to take bath by his loving devotees, then he reciprocates beautifully. And while bathing the Lord, the devotees derive bliss, and they converse about the glories, they recite Jagannath Ashtakam, and so those are the symptom of devotees. The devotees don't want to go on a Friday evening and end up doing mundane things like the chewing the chewed. They end up coming to the temple and hearing, logging in and hearing the glories of the devotees. So what do devotees do? 10.8, Sambandha. What are the symptom of devotees? 10.9, which is nothing but Abhideya. And then Krishna talks about Prayojana, wherein if you end up doing that, how do I reciprocate? In the example of the pastime which was enacted in the last few festivals, Krishna takes bath from the devotees. And then how does he reciprocate? He reciprocates by saying, you've given me so much love that now I am transcendentally ill. I won't give you darshan, so that I recuperate, because I am now having transcendental cough and cold and illness. And by virtue of taking some rest, I will come back rejuvenated, Navayovana, and will give you darshan, wherein we'll go out, when I'll go out and I'll see you. Instead of you coming to the temple in this age of Kali, we are so fallen that the Supreme Personality of God has to reciprocate and come out. And that is Prayojana. Prayojana is the process of getting to the goal of how Krishna gives us intelligence to come to me. Sometimes what happens, whenever you have a car or a fridge, unless and until the manual tells you what to do, you don't know sometimes how to operate. So Krishna is saying, by doing this devotional service, I will give you that intelligence. Dadami buddhi yogantam. Sometimes we think we can read, we can go do some Google and get to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Supreme Personality of Godhead can never be understood by knowledge. Supreme Personality of Godhead can only be understood by surrender. And what that surrender is? Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. We are constantly devoted in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is not a Gyan challenge that you end up solving the math and you get to win it. Krishna consciousness is not a thing wherein you are very bright and you end up getting it. Krishna consciousness is about giving time to serve. When you give time, you understand that what kind of separation he was going through when he was separating. He was having separation from gopis, when he was in separation from Srimati Radharani, when he was trying uh, to mediate when between Pandavas and Kauravas with Duryodhana, always trying to create cunning approaches. So when you meditate on his form, his actions, his pastimes over a period of time, you end up gaining humility. You end up gaining that element of surrender trust by which you can understand him more and more and more. And at the time, whenever he give you happiness or unhappiness, you take it as prasadam. You take it as an offering, as a reciprocation from him. And that is when you don't feel very sad. It's not as if devotees don't have sadness in their lives, but in bhakti, in devotion, you become so much Krishnized in your lifestyle that you think that everything you get in response, whether it's money or relationship, happiness, unhappiness, is a reciprocation from the Supreme. And that reciprocation is a prasadam to us. And you don't uh, complain all the time. Once Krishna consciousness is dovetailed into our lifestyle, the complaining attitude is going to go away. And that's where we have to give some time. We have to give some time in understanding the complications. It's not as if there are no problems in devotees' life or devotee settings or in temples. There are problems, there are challenges, but the way in which we look at a problem or challenges or unhappiness or sadness is so profound that Krishna consciousness becomes a very sweet journey at the end. And then in the 11th verse of Chatushloki, Krishna mentions that he mercifully, sometimes what happens is we have a lot of ignorance. We don't get a problem. We don't catch it. We don't see how we should see the solution. But because we are not pure in our approach to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we are very much ignorant. And that is where Krishna is saying, by constantly serving me, he gives us that intelligence which destroys the ignorance. So the service is the key. As you dwell more with devotees, as we associate more with devotees, we read more books and study more of Srila Prabhupada books, it becomes, every day becomes a journey wherein we learn more and more and more. And eventually we get a taste for bhakti in the purest form, without no competition in our mindset, and just in our ability to meditate on the forms of the Lord, on the pastimes of the Lord, and eventually get focus on the opulence. Because when Arjuna was asked to shoot, he was asked to shoot at the eye of the bird. And so the focus was, or the outcome was very much defined. So if you have an outcome in your mind, you will have a goal setting, abhideya. And once the goal setting is there, you have a process to get there. But unless you have the goal setting, we will all be wandering around the things. We'll be constantly questioning, we'll be constantly arguing, we'll not be happy, we'll be constantly chatting about so many things. But once you fix your mind in the devotional service and we end up focusing our attention, we'll get to learn that art of destroying ignorance by and that is not just in our devotional service, in our interactions with our co-workers, in our interaction with other co-devotees, our interaction, it will get better and better and better as we go through these challenges of different interactions. And the person who understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually very rare. And Krishna mentions in the prior verses, which you all have gone through, Bahunam Janmanam Ante, Gyanavan Ma Prapatit. He is very, very knowledgeable. He is very, very Mahatma-like because he has understood my principle, my position, and that person Samahatma Sadurlava. That means he is very, very rare. And 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 the summary of all of this is to understand who the Supreme is, and if we have got that essence of who the Supreme is, then we have understood our objective. So once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had gone to South India in Sri Rangam, and there he saw a Brahmana who is not very literate, reading Bhagavad Gita, and tears of joy was coming from his eyes. So the other Brahmanas who were sought to be knowledgeable, they were very, very, they were trying to be laughing and mocking at this Brahmana who doesn't understand a simple sloka, but he's reading Bhagavad Gita and tears of joy is falling from his eyes. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there and he was asking, what did you learn from this? Why are you crying? And the Brahmana, who is supposed to be illiterate, he says the sheer information that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has become a charioteer to his friend and is carrying the chariot for his friend. The Supreme Personality of Godhead had donned that low level of becoming the driver of the chariot, makes me feel that how supreme he is. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you have truly understood the essence of Bhagavad Gita. If after doing so many, postmortems, knowledge seeking, arguments, treatise, clauses, axioms, theories, we have not understood who the Supreme is. All these steps are very, very falsified. And soon we recognize that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is there for us to devote in doing devotional service. We have met the objective. So when we think about doing devotional service, as you can relate, that we just had Snan Yatra, where the Lord is moved from his current altar to another altar. So devotees were doing a lot of services to make the transition from one place to another, because Lord has fallen transcendental sick. In the minds of the devotees, they are trying their best to make the transition experience very soothing, wherein they're singing, they're doing nice soothing kirtan, Jagannath Ashtakam, to make the transition. And there is a lot of devotees who are helping out outside, meeting with other devotees, new devotees, arranging the shoe stand, nicely cooking for the pleasure of the devotees. So everybody is somehow or other busy in serving, and that is giving them the pleasure. As Lord is taking the duress to go from one place to another, they're trying to make that experience transition very smooth. And this is exactly Tushyanti Charamanticha, which is nothing but the derived pleasure by thinking about the Lord. And at that point in time, We take the lordships, put him in an elevated, newly designed uh, place, which is called Anavasara Vedi or Anavasara altar. And there, when devotees are busy trying to find the newly designed altar, if it is going to be strong enough to hold, the devotees are so busy, they're constantly thinking, how will Lord reside in this new place? It's a new place. Maybe they will not be acquainted. Generally, when you fall ill, you generally resort to a cotton dress. Lord generally on the day after the transcendental snan goes through a process of changing the dress, wherein the gown is replaced typically by a cotton sari, where the Lord rests for the next 2 weeks so that he is comfortable, because cotton is often more comfortable than a gown. So our devotees are so busy, they are focused on the stability of the Lord. They do not do the changing of the cotton dress on the day of Saturday night, Sunday morning. So what happens that during this time, Lord has a desire. So wherein he comes in the dream 2 days back, in the sleep of a devotee, and the devotee is not here. The devotee is in Canada. Devotee once upon a time was serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord of the universe, and the devotee sees a dream that I am looking for a cotton dress, cotton sari during my anniversary period. Can you send it to me? So we get a call today morning saying that I have seen a dream where I am seeing Lord Jagannath in the white border blue background, uh, Subhadra Mai in yellow color, and Balramji in the golden color. And I'm going to order this cotton dress he likes, and I'm going to ship it to us so that it reaches in 2-3 days from Canada, so that the Lord could be adorned with the cotton sari, which is very soft, and during the time of illness, it's very soothing. So when you think about this thing, it may look very coincidental, but for the devotees, it is very, 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 very personal. Our movement is about personalization. And you see, this devotee had served Lord Jagannath 3-4 years back. They moved to Canada. But how come at that point in time, when Lord is going through this transcendental sickness, devotees are immensely busy, the same Lord Krishna in the ecstatic form is coming in the dream of another beautiful devotee who are constantly thinking Tushyanti Ramanticha. And then the call comes, and the sari is now already shipped. And within 2 days, we are going to get the sari, and the Lord will be given, I will be offered that cotton outfit. So when you think about this, it's very deep actually, and devotees can only understand the activities of the Lord. Sometimes some good things happens to us, sometimes bad things happen to us, but for a devotee, it is always the right thing happening to us, and they don't complain about these things happening. And see how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is connecting all of us through this activity, through this opulence, through the actions by which. So as you can see, Lord can manifest in the minds of us based on how we reciprocate. He is bhavagrahi. He is very dear to his devotees, and by doing service, we derive personal pleasure. The pleasure is not just somebody patting on your back and getting pleasure by this so-called outside praise, because that is pratishta, which is not what Vaishnavas look for. It's essentially, if you serve well, you derive pleasure by yourself, and you got the reward by yourself. So there is no point of hankering for somebody trying to say to you that you have done well, this, that, and all. It's actually beyond the point, because the Lord is so reciprocative. He can come in the dreams of anybody and everybody, and he can manifest anything from anywhere. So this surrendering sense is so profound in our method of sadhana that more and more we resort to this, more and more we enhance the strength, is focus, trust. We are going to be very happy. We are not going to be happy based on somebody telling us good or bad. So Krishna is very clearly mentioning about his opulences, his objects which should attract us. And he's giving all the relationship and all the role settings and the reciprocation based on which we can come to him. And next chapter, tomorrow, Krishna is going to go a step further. Krishna will be more explicit now. Krishna is going to show the universal form, the Virat Rup next time. So as you can see, it's progressing so beautifully. Chapter 9, focus your mind. Chapter 10, showcase the opulences on which the mind can be focused. And then if that is not enough, I'm going to show the Virat Rup. Very nice progression of how the Supreme Personality of is thinking about it. That's why Srila Prabhupada says, always study Bhagavad Gita. Don't read Bhagavad Gita, study Bhagavad Gita. By studying Bhagavad Gita, we understand the rationale where Krishna is coming from, and we tune ourselves to accept or absorb. The sun god is giving sun rays to everybody, but some trees are gloriously green and some trees are sunken. It's the same sun which is giving, but our ability to receive with a sponge-like situation is very important. So there are some devotees who at a very young age have understood Krishna consciousness, have taken to it very beautifully. But sometimes we have challenges, and we read and we try to rationalize. With more and more knowledge, our ability to counter a principle becomes so challenging that it becomes very difficult to convince devotees. So it is important that we understand where Krishna is coming from, exactly like how the sponge, if it is squeezed, can absorb most. It's exactly like the green tree can absorb the optimum level of chlorophyll from the sun, wherein some others, they don't behave. So your ability to receive the mercy is important. So we should make our heart so, because Krishna is in our hearts. If Krishna is in our hearts, if you start creating so much of anarthas in our heart by backbiting, by lying, by this and that, Krishna will find it very difficult to stay in our hearts. So this process of sadhana is an ability to cleanse our inner consciousness so that Krishna can come and stay in our heart. Krishna is in our hearts. It's just that we have to give him a beautiful environment to stay. Krishna, through his Hirodakshaya Vishnu, the third Purusha avatar, is staying in our hearts based on the three Purusha avatars. The third avatar is localized in as Paramatma in our hearts. And if we let him stay nicely, we'll have a very beautiful time. Because whenever we are chanting, Krishna is listening to it close to our hearts. When we are doing something good, Krishna is looking at it. We don't have to go hanker around, because Krishna has so much of opulence, and that opulence is in our hearts. It's just that the solution is with us. The problem is with us. We are not able to see it, because Krishna, in 10.11, he has not eradicated the ignorance through the mercy, because of which we are not able to see. So beautiful chapter to ponder. Chaturshloki, the essence of Bhagavad Gita is in these 4 verses. If you have understood these 4 verses, 10.8, 9, 10, 11, you've understood Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna can reveal himself through giving happiness to Syanticha Ramanticha in the minds of devotees who constantly dwell on him. This devotee from Canada who is here, Krishna coming in the dream and transforming in his ability to reciprocate is just, and there are many such realizations devotees have. During Rath Yatra, as Krishna becomes so ecstatic, he becomes, he comes in the dreams, he comes as persons, and only a devotee, the heart of a devotee can understand it, and they can only glorify and see the importance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his deeds are unimaginable, and only a bhakta can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I can go on and on, but would like to hear your thoughts, your reflections, any corrections as to how the opulence of somebody, if you have the Prime Minister opulence, the President's opulence, that itself is enough to put you in awe and reverence. And here, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is going on and on. Of the months, he is so and so, Margasir. He does so many glorification, opulence, description in this verse. We can go on and on. So there is enough reasons to stick our brain, mind, head, focus, words, body, mind, words on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is just a set of opulences on which we can set our focus so that we are constantly in synchronization with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So with that, I'd like to end here. Hear your comments. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments, Prabhu? Any additions? Anyone wants to add anything, Prabhu? Matajis?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam, all Krishna.
Yeah, nicely you explain everything, Prabhu. Always wonderful of your. I always listen to your class. Actually, wonderfully, so wonderful, Prabhu. Wonderfully you explain. So Chatusloki, you already mentioned everything, and you also gave the example of the Bhavagrahi Janardana example. Recently, it has happened. Yes, it happened. So that devotees Canada is the Subhankar Krishna Prabhu or other Prabhu?
All right, we can take it offline, Prabhu, but because it's supposed to be just indicative. Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Okay, no problem, Prabhu.
Yeah, but yeah, Krishna can manifest in whatever ways we can think of. Mataji is a very dear devotee of Lord Jagannath. They have grown their childhood by doing a lot of service in Calcutta. Lord Jagannath in Calcutta is very merciful, and they go on a yatra starting next week. In 2 weeks in Calcutta, it goes for 7-8 days. Millions and millions of people come, and they started their childhood, stitching for the Lord and serving. So they've grown that level of relationship. We'll not go into the personalities, the devotees, but all I'm saying is, characteristically speaking, more and more you serve, more and more you recognize their needs, recognize their likes, they recognize their ability to like some kind of food, like some kind of voga. So it becomes a very detailed activity. You wake up offering prayers to the Lord. They become part and parcel of your family. They don't stay in your house. You stay in their house and you take care of them. So, so it is very important to stay Krishna conscious as much as possible so that it resonates in our lives and it manifests in our ability to think. Okay,
Yes,
bro?
Prabhu. Very nice, Prabhu. Very nice. So it is inspiring, actually, Prabhu. Actually, it is inspiring.
Exactly, yeah. And Rath Yatras, Snan Yatras, Bahuda Yatra, it's a very unthinkable phenomena. If you think about it, nowhere the God or the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes out of the temple. It has to be something, as you heard Maharaj speak last Sunday morning. It's a very unique. So Krishna is very unique. Krishna's activities are unique. It's unthinkable to see the activities of Krishna, and in order to, and in not questioning those activities, and our ability to think in sync will really make us great devotees. And that's the reason why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during this time went to, when he couldn't see Lord Jagannath, he went to Alarnath. Alarnath is around 70 kilometers from Jagannath Puri, and he fell down. And Gauranga Prabhu says that so far you have seen iron ore machine melting. Iron is found, copper melting is there, but there is no machine which can melt the stone. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, seeing the deities in Alarnath deities, fell down and he melted the stone. And if you go to Alarnath, the outline of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is still there. So bhakti is very special. Bhakti is beyond all this, mantra, tantra, and all that. The love is so profound that he melted the stone in Alarnath. And during these moments, when these unthinkable pastimes happen, devotees' faith on the Supreme Personality of Godhead multiplies. And that is when bhakti flourishes in our life. These festivals flourish our bhakti. So we should take the festivals, attend in whatever capacity, serve in whatever capacity, contribute in whatever capacity we can. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for your comment. Anything else or anyone else?
Thank you, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Very nice.
Any other comments, Prabhu, Mataji's? Chapter 10, Chaturshloki, the essence of Bhagavad Gita is here. These 4 slokas, it explains the entire Bhagavad Gita. So coincidentally, it was my turn today, but Krishna is systematically explaining this beautiful subject matter to Arjuna, and there is a reason why he's doing this in sequence. And some of our Siksha Gurus and Acharyas have mentioned why the sequencing is very important, the segue from one chapter to another, one chapter to another, and it's very interesting. Any other comments, Prabhu, Mataji? If there is none, we could end here. Or if anybody would like to weigh in on some thoughts, let's hear it from you. Or if there are any doubts or anything for that matter, any comments? It looks like a quiet.
Prabhuji, I have little joined late, so I do not know which one is a Chaturshloki you talking.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much for the wonderful question. Let me just go back. So Mataji, what I was saying, Niru Mataji, Bhagavad Gita is explained in 18 chapters and 700 verses. So if you want to learn Bhagavad Gita, Mataji, you have to go one sloka at a time on a day, and you can spend 700 days. Or you could choose to go chapter by chapter summary and attend all the 18 days, and you can get the 18 chapter summary. If you don't have time, there are 4 verses in Bhagavad Gita, which is the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita. It's called Chaturshloki. And the Chaturshloki is 10.8. Aham sarvascha prabhavo matva sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajantema buddha bhava samanita. That means Krishna is saying, I am the source of everything. Aham sarvascha prabhavo. Everything comes from him. So that means Krishna is establishing a relationship. Okay. That is, in our bhakti, we call it sambandha. Okay. And then Krishna in the 9th verse, 8, 9, 10, 11 are called Chaturshloki, 4 quadruplets. The second verse, Krishna says, Machita Madgata Prana Bodhoyantas Parasparam Kathayantas Chamam Nitya Nitshantita or Bantita. That means the devotees will dwell on him, they get a lot of bliss. They get bliss talking about him. They get happiness, they cry, they get happiness. And that is goal setting, which is Abhideya. And then in 10, Krishna says, Tesam Satato Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam Dadati Buddhi Yogam Tam Yenamam Upayantite. That means those who are constantly devoted in serving me with love, Priti Purvakam, I give them understanding by which they can come to me. Krishna gives the intelligence to come to me. That is 10th verse. And that is Prayojana. Prayojana means process of getting to the goal. So in Bhakti, Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana is the essence. Sambandha means who are we? Who is the supreme? What is the relationship? Sambandha. Abhideya means ultimate goal setting, which is the 9th verse. And the 10th verse is giving that intelligence, Buddhi Yogam Tam, so that we could come to him. And then in the 11th, which is beyond Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana, is how Krishna can drive away the ignorance by his special mercy. So these 4 verses, Mataji, is the Chaturshloki, which is the so 10th verse is right in the heart of Bhagavad Gita, is right in the middle actually. In the prior verse, Krishna is saying, I'll give you, Krishna is saying, focus your mind onto me. But Mataji, when you ask somebody to study engineering or medicine, which I want to repeat for you, is you need to tell him what are the benefits. So here, this chapter is about Krishna showcasing their opulence, so that when you focus your mind, I have so many opulences. And there are a lot of opulences. You know, Krishna, I am the Om, this, that, Krishna goes on. But the real essence is, in order to focus on me, I'll tell you the traits, what you will get into. If you focus on me, you'll get happiness, you'll get satisfaction, you'll get bliss, you get enlightenment. So unless the return on investment is there, in my sense, you won't focus on me. So Krishna is giving all this wonderful background, the opulences, so that Krishna can focus. And in the next chapter, Krishna is going explicit. Krishna is going to show Virat Rup. He's going to show everything. So as you can see, the progress from 9 to 10 to 11 is very much practical way to make somebody who is confused understand. And we are more confused than Arjuna in this age.
Right, that is true.
Yeah. All right, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you explaining me again.
You're welcome, Mataji.
I
Hare
really
Krishna.
appreciate. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anything else? So it's 8 o'clock, Prabhu. We can end unless any other comments comes. Looks like Mr. Prabhu is doing some service. Any other comments from anybody? Otherwise, we can end here.
Wonderful class, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavot
Hare
Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Mataji, you have spent a lot of time in Jagannath Puri during your, you have so many realizations about, great to hear about those pastimes you had with Lord Jagannath during your days. So thank you for attending the class and serving for Snan Yatra.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I remember all my past time. Thank you so much. This बहुत अच्छा थी class. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jayaprakash Prabhu, Amritanand Prabhu, you want to close in the absence of Simeswar Prabhu? With your closing
if
comments?
nobody has any question, we can.
Prabhu, you can question also, Prabhu. Jayaprakash Prabhu, at least you take some question. You can question something so we can learn something, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. If no one has, then we bring it to a close. So thank you, Hema Jagannath Prabhu, for a wonderful class. So let's offer our humble obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnavas. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhu Patitanam Vaishnavandaki
की जय
Bhagavad Gita ki
जय
Srila Prabhupada ki
जय
Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrind ki
जय
Yatai Gaur Premanandi.
Hare Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you
Okay,
so much.
everybody.
for the
Hare
wonderful
Bol.
Everybody.
class.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
विष्णु जयंतम सकटम हम मुसलमान के शरीर को मृत्यु श्री नरसिंह जगन्नाथ सिंह जय जय नरसिंह प्रभात जय पद्मा मुख पद्मा भृंगा श्री नरसिंह जय जय नरसिंह प्रभादेश जय पद्मा मुख पद्मा भृंगा श्री नरसिंह जय जय नरसिंह प्रभादेश जय पद्मा मुख पद्मा भृंगा विश्वजनका विश्वमरा विश्वपालका विश्वेश्वरा माझ्या मनाची चंचलता दूर कर हे सर्वव्यापी सर्वसाक्षी सर्वोत्तमा सर्वज्ञ तुला ओळखण्याचे मला ज्ञान दे हे प्रेमसागरा प्रेमानंदा प्रेममूर्ते प्रेमरूपा माझे दुर्गुण नाहीसे करून शुद्ध प्रेमाने हृदय भरू दे हे ज्ञानीशा ज्ञानमूर्ते ज्ञानंजना ज्ञानज्योती तुझ्या चरणी माझी श्रद्धा भक्ती दृढ कर हे मायातीता मायबापा मायाचालका मायामोहहरणा समदृष्टी आणि अढळ शांती मला दे हे कमलनयना कमलाकांता कमलानाथा कमलाधीशा माझ्या नेत्रांना सर्व स्थावर जन्मात तुझे दर्शन घडू दे माझे कान तुझे कीर्तन श्रवण करू दे हे पतितपावना परमेशा परमानंदा परमप्रिया माझ्या हस्ताने तुझी पूजा घडू दे तुझ्या भोवती माझे पाय प्रदक्षिणा घालू दे हे गुरुनाथा गुरुमूर्ते गुरुराजा गुरुदेवा माझे मन निरंतर तुझे ध्यान करू दे तुझ्या चरणकमली मला अखंड थारा दे श्री गोपाल कृष्ण महाराज की जय परम पूज्य गुरुदेवता श्री कलावती माता की जय पार्वती पते हर हर महादेव जरा गॅस कमी आहे का बघ जरा भाजीचा आणि वर्णाचा थोडासा तो छोटाच आहे जयो जय चंदे आरोतिक शोभा जान्हवी तटवनी जगमान लोभा कि बदाखी अनिताय जान बामे गदाधरा निकटे अद्वैता श्री वास चक्रधारा कि बबोसी याचे गौराचान रत्न सिंहासने आरती कोरे